Hey, what's going on, guys? UFC Fight Night, Atlantic City, Erin Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot just ended, and this is going to be my full card post-fight recap. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you my reaction and breakdown. And let me start off by saying this. This card was one of the worst officiated card I've ever seen. There were some questionable judges' scorecards on this card. There was fights that the decision got overturned live but not really announced. There was fights that should have been DQ'd. There was fouls in every fight. There was honestly some fights on this card that I thought were rigged. And on top of that, there was fight cancellations as well. Start off with the fight cancellation. Melissa Gatto versus Victoria Dudikova. Oh my God, what were you going to do without that fight? But that got canceled in case you're wondering, you didn't watch the card. Let's start off with the very first fight of the night. We have Kyolan Loughran versus Angel Pacheco. Loughran beat him up, hurt him with a right hand in the first round, beat him up in the first round. Pacheco had some moments. Second round, Pacheco was finding the jab, really busted up the nose of Loughran early in the second round. I think it might have been bleeding a little bit in the end of the first round, but either way, it really started leaking in the second round. Loughran got clipped with a big right hand, took Pacheco down, controlled him, and beat the shit out of him. At one point, kind of had him flattened out, landing nasty shots, and it could have honestly been stopped. The referee never even gave it a second look. And at that point, going in the third round, Loughran's clearly up on the scorecards. Pacheco needs a finish. He had a couple moments in the third round. He threw like a flying knee that got close. But basically, Loughran outstruck him and then mixed in the takedowns throughout the third round. Third round, Loughran was kind of gassed. But overall, basically, this fight was the grappling in the right hand of Loughran, and he was just able to do far more damage. And Pacheco has taken so much damage throughout his UFC career. I mean, if you include his Dana White Contender Series fight, which I believe was against Danny Silva, I hope I'm not mixing that up. But yeah, Loughran just basically dominated him. Pacheco had a couple moments, but Kyle Loughran gets it done via unanimous decision. Moving up on the card, we have Jacob Malkoun versus Andre Petroski. Jacob Malkoun wins via second round KO, but it was a very weird finish, but we'll get to that in a second. First round, Malkoun hurt him with a jab, a little bit kind of stumbled him backwards. You had Petroski just throwing wild wing shots, not really landing too much. There was a moment where Malkoun kind of got dropped, but I think it might have been a slip. And then basically, Petroski got like a clinch takedown, but Malkoun easily just, scrambled back to his feet. And basically, Malkoun won the first round, striking and, defending the takedowns. I think he might have clinched up once or looked for a takedown once, but didn't get it. Second round. Basically, the second round, it ended pretty quickly. It was 39 seconds into the second round. Andre Petroski shot him on a takedown, hit his head, almost it looked like it on the cup of Malkoun. And then when Malkoun kind of stuffs the takedown or shrugs off the takedown, Petroski just keeps going forward, or Petroski keeps going forward and is just like looking for like a phantom takedown that he doesn't get. And he just falls to the ground like he's completely out, and he's looking forward, and Malkoun's over here, and he falls to the ground really weird, and then Malkoun just runs up and throws like a soccer kick to the ribs and then lands some hammer fist, and the referee jumps in. Very weird ending sequence. I'm assuming Petroski had to get hurt from the takedown shot. That's what everyone was saying. That's what I thought. Maybe he injured his shoulder or something. I don't know, but he looked completely discombobulated. He looked completely out of it when he went to the ground. It was very, very strange, and Jacob Malkoun gets the finish. This fight pretty much went how I thought. Honestly, my analysis in this fight, I thought Petroski had a slight edge in the grappling, and Malkoun had a slight edge in the striking, and that's what I saw for while it lasted up until the finishing sequence. I think Malkoun would have won this fight. Petroski throws these wild wing shots and never really lands any of them. If he does, you're in trouble, but he doesn't really land much of them, so Malkoun gets it done, second round TKO. Moving up on the card, we have Ibo Aslan versus Anton Turkalj. Aslan gets it done via third round TKO. This was a bit of an early stoppage, but this fight was competitive. First round, I thought Aslan won. He landed the better shots. Second round, it was the same thing. They were both clipping each other in the second round, honestly, and I thought maybe Ibo might start getting tired. He looked like he was starting to get a little bit tired. He had a massive swelling on his right eye. But I just thought Anton, it was clear that he was eating the more powerful shots. He was having a more effect. Like there was times where he'd get clipped and it looked like he was going to get like slumped out for a second, like with a follow-up shot, but then he was fine and recovering. There was a groin shot in the second round. And this is where some of the officiating was already weird. There was a groin shot in the second round and Ibo was like ready to get back in there, and the ref's like, I encourage you to take your time. Like the ref almost seemed like, I think it was the Oompa Loompa, Gary Copeland, who we're going to talk about later in this video. I mean, probably multiple times. I might confuse refs, honestly, though. So if you know, if I mess something up, just let me know down in the comments. But you get the point. Anyway, groin shot. He's trying to return. The ref's like telling him, no, hold on a second. Take your time. Get your cardio back. Because it looked like he's starting to get tired. But he returns. He's landing better shots on the feet. Wins the second round. Turkalj looked for like a half-hearted takedown attempt in the second round. And I had Aslan win in the second round as well. And then the third round got really wild. Both kind of slinging. Aslan lands a nasty right hand. Drops him. Referee jumps in. A bit of an early stoppage, but I thought it was fine because Turkalj didn't even react. He had his hands like behind his back, planted, and didn't even like lift them up to defend. So he would have just got brutally chinned with ground and pound shots anyway. So I say a little bit early. It looked a little bit early, but I actually think this was a perfect stoppage. So Aslan gets it done via third round TKO and doesn't gas out. I thought he might gas out. Moving up on the card, we have Connor Matthews versus Denis Buzukja. Connor Matthews gets brutally KO'd by a left hook in the third round, early in the third round. And basically, Matthews looked good in the first minute, and then after that, Buzukja just started taking over, landing the better shots. Connor Matthews couldn't find any success, didn't really look for any takedowns. It was the right hand and the jab of Buzukja. There was a nut shot in the first round that landed on Buzukja. And then basically the second round, Buzukja was landing as well, just piecing him up a little bit. Matthews got a takedown in the second round, but didn't do anything with it. Did maybe a little bit of ground and pound, but that was really, I think it was as he was trying to get up against the fence. And basically lost the second round, and then the third round immediately gets caught with a left hook and then gets finished off with hammer fist. So Denis Buzukja gets his first UFC win. So shout out to Denis Buzukja. I thought Connor Matthews looked horrible after the first minute. Really had nothing to offer at all. But, he gets finished in the third round. I think Buzukja was going to win a 30-27 scorecard anyway. Moving up on the card, we have Julio Arce versus Herbert Burns. There's two nut shots in the first round by knees from Herbert Burns. And there was a point deduction. So that was already kind of weird. I understand it was two nut shots, but they were in like clinch exchanges and they weren't like horrendously bad. Arce wasn't really throwing a whole lot in the first round, but he was clearly outlanding him and defending takedowns. So the first round was a 10-8 due to the point deduction. And then in the second round, I guess Burns is just completely gassed. I didn't trust his gas tank after the first 2 minutes, but it was like Arce realized Herbert Burns had wilted and was like kind of tired and then just started swarming him and was just literally spamming the left hook up against the fence and dropped him down, and then the ref jumped in. It was kind of early, but honestly, Burns was showing no resistance. At one point, he was up against the fence eating left hooks, and then like Arce stopped for a second, and then he kind of peeked out for a second, and Arce hit him with another left hook. And I think eventually he dropped him with a left hook, and then he would have followed up and finished him, but I don't even think he ended up following up with any shots because the ref jumped right in a little bit early on that one, but with that one, I didn't care too much either, so to be honest. So Julio Arce gets it done second round TKO after missing weight, so kind of puts a damper on the performance, and Gilbert Burns did not carry out Herbert Burns in the just married pose for this fight. Moving up on the card, we have Verna Jandiroba versus Lupita Godinez. Verna Jandiroba, I'm trying to say her name right, supposedly that's how you say it, wins via unanimous decision. I think even one judge had it 30-27 for Jandiroba, which is an embarrassment. So first round, Jandiroba got two takedowns, did absolutely nothing with it, not even any real control time. Luque landed a big knee after the first takedown, and Luque was out striking her. And, towards the end of the round, Verna got another takedown, got the back for a second, but then the round ended, and clearly Lupita outstruck her on the feet. So Luque clearly won the first round. Second round, Luque was winning on the feet, and then there was a takedown for Verna. Then there was a 50-50 position where Luque kept going for like a heel hook that was never coming. So then they were like basically on the ground in a 50-50 like scissoring position, leg entanglement. And Luque was looking for a heel hook, and then occasionally Verna would throw like a couple hammer fists, and occasionally Lupita would throw a couple hammer fists. And I thought Luque clearly won the second round, to be honest. I thought she clearly won the second round. Not clearly, but I saw, as soon as it ended, I said Luque should get that round, but I wouldn't trust the judges. But it was basically, Luque landed a couple shots on the feet. There was a takedown. There was a leg entanglement where Lupe's looking for a leg lock. Then they were occasionally trading like hammer fist. I mean, how do you give Jandiroba that round? I don't get it. Lupe's at least looking for a sub, and then they're basically staring at each other. So, and then the third round, Luque was tired, got taken down, gave up her back, and then Verna was looking for the rear naked choke and did some damage as well. So Verna clearly won the third round, and they give it, I think, 2 29-28s for Verna and a 30-27 for Verna. Whoever gave it a 30-27 is an embarrassment to the sport, but Verna Jandiroba gets it done via decision. Moving up on the card, we have Nate Landwehr versus Jamall Emmers. Emmers has no fight IQ. He comes out, just starts starching him with like right hands and body shots, and it just like woke Nate Landwehr up. You know Nate Landwehr. He loves to be in brawls. He's getting busted up, bloodied up, and all of a sudden he's fighting better. And then basically they end up in a clinch. I mean, this fight ended in the first round. It was Nate Landwehr, first round KO, basically off an uppercut. But they end up in the clinch. Nate Landwehr all busted up, starts landing some uppercuts, having some success there. Nate Landwehr stops circling, or not Nate Landwehr, Jamall Emmers stops circling as much, slowing down. It seems like he kind of blew his load a bit. Nate Landwehr just reinvigorated from getting busted up and bloody and cutting his hairline, and starts marching forward and throwing shots and lands like a step-in uppercut. And then there was like a right hand that dropped him, and then a hammer fist TKO. It was out cold, completely out cold. So Nate Landwehr is just so gritty, man. I don't understand why Jamall Emmers wouldn't just try to fight a little bit more technical fight. He was clearly the superior striker in this fight. But he was like trying to go to war with him in the first minute. It was weird. It was like he was like, let me start a dogfight, absolute dogfight with Nate Landwehr in the first minute. Made no sense, and he paid for it with his consciousness. Jamall Emmers got brutally KO'd 4 minutes and 43 seconds into the first round. So actually, I didn't even realize it lasted all the way almost to the end of the first round. So it was at the tail end of the first round, but I guess it did. It feels like forever ago at this point. The card was on for so long, it seemed like. But yeah, Nate Landwehr gets it done, has a funny post-fight interview, and I don't think he called out anyone. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, Nate Landwehr gets it done via KO. Moving up on the card to the very first fight on the main card, Chidi Njokuani versus Rhys McKee. What to say about this fight? Honestly, it was Chidi landed some leg kicks in the first round. McKee landed some right hands and having some clinch control, but absolutely nothing really in the first round in terms of like actual action other than the early leg kicks and the right hands from McKee, and it was just nonstop clinch. I thought McKee clearly won the first round, did more damage with, or not clearly, I thought it was kind of close, but I thought McKee did more damage with the punches. Clinch control was nothing, so he had the control time, so if it was even, you give it to McKee anyway. Second round, Njokuani was landing some shots and landing some knees and landing some elbows, and Rhys McKee's looking for takedowns, and Chidi Njokuani grabbed the fence blatantly, and the fence, he would have got taken down if it wasn't for the fence grab. So Chidi should have lost the second round, should have had a point deducted. Ref saw it. I believe it was Keith Peterson, just shook his head at it. I think it was Keith Peterson. I might be wrong on that. Might be mixing that up with something else because there were so many officiating fouls or just blunders tonight is really the way to say it. But Njokuani landed a couple knees, couple elbows in the round. And I had Njokuani taking the second round without the point deduction for the fence grab. And then the third round was honestly just a horrible round. McKee looking for takedowns. Chidi landing an occasional knee to the body. And I basically had 2 and 3 for Chidi Njokuani. But to be honest, the third round was absolutely shit. Almost nothing happened in the third round but some clinch control from McKee. And the first round, I thought McKee won. So there was a scorecard that gave it. It was a split decision. It took them 10 minutes to add 3 numbers. I mean, seriously, think about this. It's taken them 10 minutes to add the scorecards. At the end of the day, you have 3 single-digit numbers for every scorecard. You can't add them up. Like, you don't have a calculator. It's taking you 5 minutes to do that. You have to come up with 3. I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. 3 single-digit numbers to add together to get one total score. So you can't do that across the board pretty quickly. They took 10 minutes to come up with a split decision. I think it was 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27 for Chidi Njokuani, which I didn't hate either. But people were like crying about the scorecards. I didn't think it was that bad because round 3 was ass, and I thought round 1 McKee won. So there you go. Chidi Njokuani gets it done via decision. Both of them are embarrassments and should be cut from the organization immediately. Moving up on the card, we have Bill Algeo versus Kyle Nelson. Another officiating blunder. And let me see if Tapology tells me who the ref was. Let me see if somebody told me that Tapology now tells you what the ref is. I don't see it on here, but it probably does somewhere along the lines. But I don't see it. So I don't remember who the ref was for Bill Algeo versus, I believe it was the Oompa Loompa guy. I want to say it was Copeland. I think his name was Copeland, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember. I think it's Gary Copeland. I think it was Gary Copeland, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that one. It's definitely not Keith Peterson. He's willing to let people die. It was a first round TKO for Kyle Nelson. It was a way early stoppage. He caught Bill Algeo early. It was like a 50-50 fight up until that point. Algeo was landing some shots. And then there was a right hand from Kyle Nelson that hurt Bill Algeo. And then was like kind of swarming him but missing with a lot of shots. And then landed another right hand. The ref the whole time, it was the Oompa Loompa. It was Gary Copeland. That dude's a shit stain. I wish he was watching this video right now. I wish he was watching. Gary Copeland, you're a fucking disgrace. You're a horrible ref. You look like an Oompa Loompa from Willy Wonka's that got a hold of steroids. You're a shit ref. Get a new job. I'm pissed off. It's 3 a.m. I'm recapping Atlantic City, and this dude's a shit ref. Anyway, Kyle Nelson's like chasing him down. Bill Algeo's kind of got that herky-jerky weird style anyway. Doesn't need a whole lot of damage, but he's clearly hurt. But he also does have that weird style where he's moving. The ref's like, I swear he had a betting slip. I swear he bet on guys tonight. And he's like waiting to jump in when nothing's happening, waiting to jump in. And then finally jumps in. And I understand there could be standing TKO. So it ended up being a standing TKO. And Bill Algeo is throwing back at this point in time. He's got his eyes locked on his opponent. He's not like clearly out looking off into space. He's got his eyes locked on his opponent. He's backing away, and he even just recently threw a couple shots. And the ref just jumps in. I swear he had a betting slip. The dude's a fraud. Gary Copeland, find a new job. You should be fired immediately. And stop taking steroids and stop spray tanning so often. You look like an Oompa Loompa. What an embarrassment to the sport this stoppage was. And this wasn't his worst officiating blunder on the entire card. Because at least, okay, maybe Kyle Nelson would have finished him anyway. I don't know. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm not sure of that. Because Bill Algeo was pretty durable and he was backing up and he was, moving decently. And a lot of the follow-up shots didn't really land. So Kyle Nelson looked really good. His striking looked really good. He was throwing big shots. He called out Nate Landwehr afterwards. I like to call out. But horrible early stoppage and robbed Bill Algeo of any opportunity to even fight. Moving up on the card, we have Nora Salt and Ruziboev versus Cedriquez Dumas. So Ruziboev was winning. He was landing the right hand. He was landing some uppercuts. Tagged him with like a really good right hand early, and then it started to kind of even out a bit. But Nora Salt was winning. Dumas was throwing some kicks, having a little bit of success, but really not that much. And then after a combination, Ruziboev kind of pawed out with the hand. I poked him, and Dumas kind of turned around, like kind of rubbed his eye, and then like started to turn away. And Ruziboev started to chase him down. The ref didn't give him no break and landed a nasty uppercut that put him down and then finished him off with ground and pound. Honestly, on the replay, I feel like Dumas should have got a break. I feel like if the ref didn't clearly see that it was like a punch, they should err on the side of caution. They didn't. Ruziboev really, what really hurt him was the uppercut, but at the same time, I feel bad because Dumas did get eye poked. It was clear in the replay his eye got raked a little bit. It wasn't as bad as some of the other eye pokes we're going to talk about in this post-fight, but Nora Salt gets it done. And then they cut off the broadcast, cut off the celebration with Ruziboev and his coach. What were they thinking? What's going on there? I don't get it. And then Ruziboev goes out and calls out Jiro Mearshart afterwards. But overall, honestly, I feel like it should kind of get ran back. It was actually a decent fight. I would have liked to see how it was going to play out. I think Ruziboev would have won anyway. I got a perfect pick here, first round TKO. But Dumas did get eye poked. So I know people don't really like Dumas because he's always, it seems like recently he's getting in trouble and whatnot. I don't know if that's played out yet in the court of law. But I know people kind of like to shit on him and he isn't that good and whatnot. And he's kind of an easy target right now. But I still think, I feel that he got poked and I feel like this was kind of unjust. But protect yourself at all times, I guess. But I think it's another reffing blunder. I don't remember who this ref was, honestly. I think this was like the guy that kind of looked Spanish that was from the Loughran fight maybe in this fight. I can't remember for sure. There was a lot of there were some newer refs that you don't see very often. But Ruziboev gets it done, calls out Jiro Mearshart afterwards. I think Ruziboev is a very interesting prospect in the middleweight division with a lot of fights, 34-8-2. Jiro Mearshart has a shit ton of fights too. I'd like to see them fight each other. I think that's a good test for Ruziboev and see how he does against a guy like Jiro Mearshart. He should run through him, in my opinion. Then we could really talk about matching up Ruziboev with some other kind of contenders or maybe like a top 15 gatekeeper or something along those lines. But Ruziboev gets it done. He puts Dumas out, or not out, he TKOs him in the first round with nasty ground and pound shots after an uppercut, but after an eye poke. But at the end of the day, he gets it done. Moving up on the card, the featured fight on the main card, Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva. This was originally scored or ruled a third round TKO for Chris Weidman, but it ultimately ended up being a technical decision for Chris Weidman. Either way, I wholeheartedly and vehemently disagree with this decision. Weidman should have been DQ'd. This comes from someone who's rooting for Weidman in this fight. He's old, he's washed up, he's coming back from a leg break in his second fight since the leg break. I was rooting for him to win this fight. He embarrassed himself tonight. Embarrassed himself a multitude of ways. So let's talk about the fight. How did it play out? Weidman looked good early. He was landing some head kicks, then got a little bit aggressive, got clipped up, then ended up looking like for a takedown. Landed some kind of questionable knees to the back of the head of Bruno Silva. Then Bruno Silva was down on all fours, and then basically Weidman doggy-styled him for the last 2.5 minutes. It was an embarrassment by both guys, in my opinion. Second round, Weidman was like landing some more, looking for some takedowns, but getting stuffed. It was more competitive in the second round. Bruno Silva clipped him up where he swelled up Weidman's left eye. And then there was an eye poke from Chris Weidman. And then the ref like took forever to get Bruno Silva a towel to wipe his eye. Then he wipes his eye, and then he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. They get back to fighting. And the round ends. Weidman wins second round. So Weidman's up 2 rounds. Third round, Weidman committed 3 eye pokes. So he pokes Bruno Silva in the third round early, and they call it a double eye poke. There's 2 double eye pokes in the third round. So what I mean by double eye poke in this instance is when Bruno Silva was throwing a right hand, like the thumb kind of went in the eye. I don't know if that really should count as an eye poke or not, but it was kind of, the thumb kind of did sneak out a little bit from the fist. So it wasn't just fully the knuckle, but Weidman was perfectly fine. Weidman didn't really complain about it that much until later, which he completely embarrassed himself. But Bruno Silva was being rushed back from the Oompa Loompa, Gary Copeland. Asked for a towel again, and the dude was like, come on, let's go. You both poked each other, blah, 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 acting like it didn't matter. He didn't need more time to recover, even though he has 5 minutes to recover from an eye poke. So whatever. Bruno Silva continues. Literally a minute later, maybe 30 seconds later, Weidman's still pawing out like this. He is the entire fight. The referee literally warns him, do not paw out like that. 2 seconds later, Weidman eye pokes Bruno Silva in both eyes, brutally, caught on replay in slow-mo. We saw this after the fact. Then I think it was a left hand. It looked like it dropped Bruno Silva, but it was really the double eye pokes. It was the reaction from the double eye pokes. Replay, the left hand doesn't really land. It might have been, it had to be a left hand. I'm pretty sure it was a left hook. And then Weidman ground and pound, and the referee jumps in. Immediately, Bruno Silva jumps up and says, I got poked in both my eyes. The replay then confirms it. The referee, who appeared to have a bet on Chris Weidman, the same Oompa Loompa who appeared to have, betting slips all night, it seemed. This was a disgrace. Weidman's asking for his American flag so he can drape himself in his American flag. And, I'm just like, you know what? Fuck Chris Weidman. That's honestly how I feel about it. Because then he gets on the mic afterwards. We clearly see the replays, double eye poke. He's like, I got poked too. Initially, they announced it as a TKO. They changed it over to a technical decision because basically the ref said, well, we saw the eye pokes. We stopped the action. He couldn't continue. We went to the scorecard since it was into the third round. No, that's the wrong decision. First of all, I don't even know if you're supposed to do it that way. I don't know if that's the order of operations, but that's besides the point. This should have been a DQ. Weidman poked him once. He poked him twice. He was warned before the third and fourth, and then he double eye pokes him to a finish. Why should Bruno Silva be robbed of the last 3 minutes of the fight? Because you can't keep your fingers shut. And then he gets on the mic and says, well, it doesn't matter if you get poked. You can't fall to the ground. And I got poked too. Chris Weidman literally fingered Bruno Silva to a technical decision. What a disgrace. Anybody that runs into Chris Weidman on the street, like if you see Chris Weidman out with his family and dinner, I'm not suggesting you do this, but I'm just saying this is the way I feel right now. You should walk on, oh, I'm a huge fan. Boom, right in both eyes, deep. I want you to go knuckle deep. It would be a real shame if someone did that. I'm not suggesting anyone to do that, okay? But I'm just saying this is how frustrated I am right now. And when he falls to the ground in agony, my eyes just start hammer fisting to oblivion. And then just run away. And then if he calls the police and somebody arrests you, be like, you shouldn't just fall to the ground when you get double eye poke knuckle deep. Dude fingered Bruno Silva to a technical decision. And then he's celebrating like he regained the middleweight title. This dude is an embarrassment. I hated Chris Weidman after Anderson Silva broke his leg. I hated his guts because he draped himself in the American flag and he pranced around the cage like it was the best thing ever. It was an embarrassment. I don't care that he won the title. Dude broke his legs, laying there in agony, compound fracture. I always disliked Weidman. But over the years and watching him getting KO'd over and over and over and over and over again, I started to feel bad for him. And then he breaks his leg. I start feeling bad for him. And he realizes he was a dick because he was even taking pics with fans checking leg kicks after that Anderson Silva win. He was so proud of that Anderson Silva leg break. And he kind of got, karma, in my opinion. And I felt bad for him. Like, damn, I would never wish that on anyone, never wish an injury like that on anyone. Now I feel bad for Weidman and, go from 13-0 to like 15-26 losses now. I'm exaggerating. I kind of felt bad for him. I wanted him to get a win and retire. Now, dude's celebrating and like acting like he won the Super Bowl, the World Series, the middleweight title, NASCAR, Daytona 500, whatever the hell it is. And after double eye poking a guy. Embarrassing performance. He should have been DQ'd. The ref should have DQ'd him. You can't commit 4 eye pokes in a 2-minute span and get away with it. It's a disgrace. Weidman should be ashamed of himself. DQ him, get him out of the organization, send him over. He doesn't even belong in Bellator. He doesn't belong in PFL. Send him to the retirement home. Let him go get, please, Jake Paul, I know your next opponent. Please take Weidman out. Please, that's crazy. Who would have thought I would have ever said that? Let me just say this, and I'll end on this. Tom Petty would be ashamed of Chris Weidman. You don't double eye poke a guy and then celebrate and then say, oh, well, I got poked too one time and it was like a knuckle, basically. Embarrassment. Weidman, I hope they match him up with the worst possible matchup in his next fight. And I hope he gets brutally chinned for the end of his career after committing the fouls that he committed tonight. And I'm telling you right now, Gary Copeland, you're a piece of shit. I'm so annoyed. It's 3 a.m. We're talking about eye pokes. We got to talk about one man fingering another man in a fight. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Weidman's a piece of shit for it. His whole team is a piece of shit for celebrating the win. And it should be, imagine the years of whining we would hear from Weidman if this happened to him. And at this point, why isn't every fighter just committing fouls every single fight? Fence grabs, eye pokes, groin shots. I'm at least getting 2 or 3. I'm at least getting 2 or 3 before, okay, they're not going to take a point until like the 5th or 6th one. They're definitely not going to DQ someone. They saw it in the replay. They said, oh, we'll just do technical decision instead of TKO. Doesn't make any sense, and it's a disgrace. Gary Copeland should be ashamed of himself. Moving up on the card, I'm making this video way too long. Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. Luque won the first round. It's kind of a boring first round. Just landed a little bit more. Looked to take... There was a late takedown from Luque, and Buckley grabbed the fence egregiously. Should have had a point deducted for that, but again, no refs do anything about anything. Second round, Luque clinches up, just falls to the ground, and then just sits there frozen in a ball of his own self-pity, I guess. Just chills there. Just chills there like this for 45 seconds. Buckley's literally raining down ground and pound. He's not moving. No feet on hips, nothing. The shots aren't even landing. Most of the shots, some of them did land, don't get me wrong. The last 6 to 8 that stopped the fight, they landed on nothing but the forearms. And the ref jumped in, and Luque never moved, and Luque didn't even protest the stoppage. I swear this might have been a rigged fight. I'm convinced that Luque doesn't want to fight anymore because he had that traumatic brain injury against Jeff Neal. He told his entire family to bet all your money on second round TKO for Buckley, and then he folded in that fight. There's no other explanation to me. He just stood there frozen. Maybe he hurt his neck. Maybe he got concussed on the takedown. There was kind of a weird clash with the arm. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it. Buckley TKOs him in the second round. Luque just lays there. Just absolutely lays there. Embarrassing performance from Luque. Luque's done. Jeff Neal took his soul. That's the ghost of Vicente Luque. I'm not even calling him Vicente Luque anymore. That's a ghost of Luque. Just curled up into a little ball and just laid there. The shots weren't even fucking landing. I couldn't believe this shit. This card is so big. Were we living in a simulation? Because this card was testing me bad. I don't know what happened here. I was so confused. The ground and pound shots, some of them got through, but the last 6 were on the forearms, and Luque didn't move, so the ref was like, okay, we're going to be here all night. He's just going to do this after pulling guard for no reason in a fight that Buckley was throwing big, wild-winging power shots, landed a couple in the second round, but didn't land a whole lot throughout the first or anything like that. And Luque just quit in the second round. I'm convinced he had some type of gambling wager on the second round TKO for Buckley. That's the only explanation for this. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Moving up on the card, the main event, Erin Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot. Manon Fiorot, I should have stuck with my early prediction. I shamed myself by switching my prediction. I bought into the hype a little bit. I switched my prediction. I thought Manon Fiorot, early prediction, I said she's going to stuff the takedowns and beat her up on the feet. That's exactly what she did. The only really exciting moment in this fight was Fiorot decided to look for a takedown and almost ended up in a guillotine in the first round. And for a second, I actually thought she tapped when she flipped, but it was the way she was grabbing the leg when she was flipping over to get out of the guillotine. And I just thought it kind of looked like a tap real quick. And then I realized when I went back and watched after the second round, it wasn't a tap. But it was basically Blanchfield coming forward, not really landing a whole lot and getting tagged up. She didn't wear a whole lot of damage either, honestly, until the 5th round. 4th round, she started picking up the pace. 5th round, she started picking up the pace, but it was too little too late. I thought Fiorot won every single round. The only grappling was in the first round, I think. Occasionally, I think in the 5th round, actually, Blanchfield landed a head kick, and it looked like maybe Fiorot was wobbled for a second, but it was just kind of caught her off balance. And then I think Blanchfield got 1 clinch in the 5th round, but Blanchfield can't shoot for a single. She can't shoot for a double. She can't look for anything other than just clinching up. And she barely had any success. I mean, it was an embarrassing display from Erin Blanchfield. She was exposed badly by Manon Fiorot in this fight. Badly. And honestly, Manon Fiorot, I shit on this performance a little bit, but I thought she looked pretty technical on the feet. I thought she looked big. I thought she looked strong. And I think she could be the next champion. I think she could beat Valentina Shevchenko. I think she can beat Grasso as well. Whoever wins that fight. But they're the Ultimate Fighter coaches, so they're not going to fight. Who knows? They're probably going to fight before Chandler and McGregor do, but who knows when they're going to fight? Probably not till the end of the year. So Fiorot said she'll take on anyone, but she does want a title shot. I think she probably wins the title, no matter who comes out of that. Honestly, after watching this performance, I don't see Valentina out-grappling her. Valentina could outstrike her, obviously. Valentina's really good. That's a fight I would like to see, but we'll see how it goes. Grasso also has pretty good boxing as well. So it would be interesting, but early prediction right now, I'm thinking Fiorot wins. But I mean, it was just Fiorot backing up and countering. Blanchfield would occasionally land some like good leg kicks, but never really, I mean, she never really committed to anything. I feel like if she committed to the leg kicks a little bit more, maybe she could have some more success. I thought maybe Fiorot might gas, but really there was no real hard work ever put on her because she wasn't even getting to these clinch sections. Like there was like one clinch exchange in the whole fight. It's crazy. Blanchfield just coming forward sloppy and just getting shucked off over and over and over again and getting countered up, busted up, getting her head snapped. She started bleeding like 4th or 5th round. And Manon Fiorot literally put on a masterclass. Definition of a masterclass. Blanchfield looked like she didn't even belong in there. And Manon Fiorot is your #1 contender in the women's flyweight division. And that's it. There's really not that much to break down in the main event. Fiorot just outclassed her on the feet. And Blanchfield just looked like a sloppy mess on the feet. I think in the 5th round, Fiorot started getting a little bit more aggressive and was like snapping her head back a bit. I guess she realized I'm not getting taken down. I'm not getting taken down ever. So I might as well start busting her up a little bit more. I thought, like, I was a little bit worried, the judges tonight. I'm like, oh my God, if they somehow rob Fiorot because Blanchfield just moving forward the whole time. But luckily that didn't happen. I think all the judges had it 50-45. So masterclass win for Manon Fiorot. Let me know what you guys thought of the card down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.